why it is that people don't like us. And I think you're really going to be surprised. And one of the things that you need to recognize is our area is inundated. It is just packed full of folk that have been, undermined by a teaching from a gentleman in the 1600s named Calvin, John Calvin. He lived in Geneva, and his doctrine was brought from there to the continent here, North America. And there are many, many folks who don't even realize that they're adhering to some of the things that Calvin said, and a Catholic individual much earlier named Constantine, Augustine, and some people say Augustine. It's fine if you say Augustine, it's fine if you say Augustine. I think there are more people that recognize putting the exclamation somewhere else, Augustine, than they are Augustine. So if you're saying, oh yeah, I think I've heard of Augustine, well, he's the first person who began to talk about the idea of our inability, total depravity, and then Calvin ends up narrowing that down. And now today, what are some of the things that you will actually hear, and why are they mad at us? Here's one. Here is a definition associated with what you're seeing here, and that is a sacrifice that is called in the New Testament terminology propitiation. And here's what they say. Penal substitutionary view of the atonement holds that the most fundamental event of the atonement is that Jesus Christ took full punishment that we deserve for our sins as a substitute in our place. Now, when you hear a definition like this, what you're going to come away from that is full punishment that we deserve for our sins. So basically, you're hearing that God sent Jesus into the world, and he took the full punishment that we deserve for our sins as a substitute in our place. And so, from that tone, I don't really think that you can help but hearing the idea that, God is mad with us. God is mad with his creation. We all deserve punishment, and God, in order to salve his anger and wrath towards us, sent a substitutionary atonement to take the full punishment that we deserve for our sins as a substitute in our place. Is God mad at you? I just want to ask you the question about when you start thinking about your relationship with God. Let's look at this term, and I hope that you will do this too when you're trying to figure out what it is these lofty individuals are talking about when they talk about penal. Let's look at this. Notice this. Relating to, used for, or prescribing the punishment of offenders under the legal system. Penal substitutionary. So this is your punishment under a legal system. So when you're talking about the legal system, the justice of God, that's what you're going to get. When you're talking about the justice of God, that God has to mete out because God is just, under his legal system, the penal substitutionary view is that the punishment ends up being substitutionary. That Jesus is going to take the place for the full punishment that we deserve for our sins as a substitute in our place. Now, I just don't know how you can get around the idea that sends the message to you that God is mad with you, and we deserve every bit of God's wrath that can be meted out and talked about, and the fury that people say that God is a very hateful God. Is that really how this works? And what I'd like to do tonight is I'd like to introduce you to the foremention of God and his relationship to people associated with him.